everybody, today we're going to talk about how to spot a knockoff Les Paul. So with the rise of Alibaba and AliExpress and Temu and Wish.com and things like that, I get served ads all the time for guitars coming from overseas that somehow, a Gibson or a Fender is $250, and we all know that that's not real. So I was looking for some picks and some other little promotional items to give away at NAMM on Alibaba, and I saw an ad for a Greenie Les Paul. So what I did, I bought it. It was $250, and I thought, I'm going to get this, and I'm going to bring it in here, and I want to see what all the differences are between it and the real Greenie, and show you guys how do you kind of protect yourself against buying a used instrument that might be a counterfeit. So we asked our friends over at Long McQuaid here in Winnipeg if we could borrow their USA Greenie and compare it to the Cheney, as I might call it. So first off, I've got two guitars here. I'll just tell you guys right off the bat which one is which. So on my right here, this is the USA Kirk Hammett Greenie Les Paul. So we'll talk about some of the differences between the two and how you can spot some dead giveaways for fake or counterfeit Les Pauls. And some of this information will, transfer across other brands as well. And this here on my left is the Alibaba Greenie. So from across the room, our staff here, when I just had them set up on the table here, most of the guys couldn't tell which one was which. So the first thing that I look for when I get any guitar in my hands that I'm looking at buying used, or that if I see photos of it online that I'm going to check for, number one, always check for the serial number. So with this guitar, the dead giveaway is there is no serial number, there is no Made in USA stamp on the back of it. The second thing that I would look for, though, because there are some Gibsons that the serial number is very faint, and I'm sure there's some counterfeits that are coming over here or even made in North America that have some sort of serial number stamp on it, so it'll be a little bit harder to tell. So the first thing I look for is I look at the machine heads. If the tuning machines are, cheap garbage, which you guys can see, these are not anything quality. They don't have any sort of branding or logoing stamped on them, where if you compare it with the Greenie, you can tell very quickly that the USA Greenie has substantially better hardware on it. Just that from the start. So the next thing I watch for is I come from a background in the printing industry, so I pay attention to logos a lot. So the logos, they're both kind of mother of pearl. Obviously, the USA we know is a mother of pearl. This one, it looks slightly different, but the big thing I notice is the logo is all of the lettering in it is kind of too fat. The Gibson logo is a little bit thinner looking, so you can pay attention for stuff like that. Obviously, with these two guitars, when they knocked this one off, they still put the Les Paul screen print on here instead of leaving it off like it is on the Greenie. And if you do have another Les Paul you can compare it to, this screen print on here does not look like the Les Paul decal, or I don't know if they screen print them on the actual Gibsons or not, but you can tell that some of the lines, especially in the P on Paul on this, it kind of stops at the vertical line, the little swoosh, and on a real Les Paul, it goes past it by 3/16 of an inch. So there's some little minor details you can look at for that. I also look at the hardware right away all over the guitar. Strap buttons on this are very different than the strap buttons on a real Les Paul, right? Whether it's a Greenie or whether or not you're looking at a 90s Les Paul, anything, none of them have buttons like what's on this Alibaba guitar. The hardware itself is also, all of the edging on it is very squared off and sharp. If you hit your hand on that, you'd probably cut it. And I don't just mean on the saddles. And on all of the Gibson hardware, everything is rounded off and is smooth so that it's comfortable for your hand to rest against it. Even the edge of this post is pretty sharp. So those are some minor things that as soon as I pulled the guitar out of the styrofoam box that came in, because that actually is probably the biggest dead giveaway, is if somebody is trying to sell you a USA made guitar and it doesn't have a case, that's a huge red flag. So this thing shipped in a styrofoam container, essentially. So. Other little things, fit and finish obviously varies from brand to brand. Sometimes there's USA guitars that don't have amazing fit and finish, but little things like this gap between the pickup ring and the neck pickup, I mean, that wouldn't exist in a USA model guitar like this. Specifically on the Greenie, you can also tell that they flipped this pickup because the Greenie has had this pickup, the neck pickup flipped, I think due to something with phasing or that it sounds a little bit different. On the knockoff, they didn't bother doing that. So yeah, some minor things. The hardware all feels different. Like this switch is really loud and really stiff, where on the Greenie, it's quite a bit smoother, not as stiff. Also little minor things like toggle switch cap here. This cap is quite a bit, like if I put this guy in the middle position, never mind the fact that the coloring's off. I mean, you put that in the middle position, I don't know how well you can see that, but the knockoff is probably about 1/8 of an inch taller, so it feels too big for a Les Paul compared to all of the other Les Pauls I have. And then everything else that you're looking for is, you know, like little cosmetic things. You look at the joint here. This neck joint is actually done pretty well, but the heel here is, like, you can see the width difference. I mean, the bodies themselves, the Alibaba guitar is about between 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thinner than the USA Les Paul. And then you can see how big this kind of gap is here, or this joint is here, compared to the one on the actual USA Les Paul. So, you know, there's a lot of things you can watch for. Here, again, talking about fit and finish, the cavity route for the electronics cavity and then the electronics cover, I mean, there's a big gap here. Like, I can put my fingernail in there and pick at it. You're not going to get that. That stuff is all fit perfectly and countersunk nicely on the Gibson, where, you know, this guy is pretty flush, like the screws are sticking up, and yeah, just not nice attention to detail, which is what a lot of this has to do with, is the QC and the attention to detail. The other thing I'll say about this, if you look at the Greenie back, it's just solid lacquered wood. That's it, right? It's not relic or anything like that. This one has a ton of relicing on it, and what's really interesting is how this feels, which obviously you guys can't tell from the video, but this feels more like luxury vinyl plank flooring to me than it does wood. So almost like a rubbery substance. I don't know if it's a veneer or what it is, because, you know, I haven't cut the guitar in half to see how it's actually built. But so yeah, so those are some of the things. I mean, the strings that came on it were complete garbage. The poker chip on the Greenie, there's no markings on the Greenie, but even on a standard, like just a Les Paul standard, this one here has a screen print on it. You cannot feel the lettering for rhythm or treble. It's also thinner. It's not sitting right flush to the body. On a real Les Paul, this plastic is probably about twice as thick as it is, and all of the lettering is kind of embossed into the chip and then, you know, colored inside each lettering. So you can actually feel the word treble and rhythm without touching it. Dorian pointed out to me that also the toggle switch itself looks a whole lot more like an Epiphone toggle switch rather than the way that the Gibson ones look. Just, you know, the mounting hardware for it. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I would look for. You know, you don't want to get caught with something like this where somebody buys one of these, brings it in from overseas, and then tries to resell it, and you think you're getting a great deal on a Les Paul for, you know, $1,500, and it turns out it's a knockoff. So, you know, when you're going to buy any used instrument, whether it's a Gibson or a Fender or PRS or any higher end guitar, I'd encourage you, go online, you know, search for all the signs of the different counterfeits. You're going to be able to find information about every different brand of guitar and how to spot a fake. And, you know, just kind of protect yourself, because there are people out there that will just sell stuff off and take advantage of people. And, You don't want to make an investment in something and then find out that you've been had. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you have any other things that you guys look for specifically on guitars that are dead giveaways that it's a knockoff. You know, my point in doing this was to try to protect anybody from getting taken by somebody who's, you know, selling knockoff stuff. So, you know, thanks for watching. You know, please like and subscribe. And yeah, see you guys on the next one.